Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Revolution News and Information. We are starting off with this on your screen right here. This is live coverage. What are we watching, Rage?
Is it in Japanese?
Yes.
Then it's the live coverage of them pulling people out of wrecked buildings in Japan after the earthquakes.
Yeah, I figure this is going on. There was a major earthquake. Tell us a little bit about this earthquake.
There's been several earthquakes in Japan, and their buildings collapsed, people trapped under the rubble. Whole communities are coming together to try to help each other. It's a horrible travesty over there, and we're watching the live footage of it.
Yes.
Wow.
This is sad.
And what was the magnitude?
Which time? Because there hasn't been one under 5.0 yet. I think the last one was a 7.
And did you tell me earlier that they are evacuating the hospital because they're afraid of?
Yeah, they're evacuating the hospital in that town of Kiwatu. Or hold on, I'll look up the thing again. I know I posted it to the Revolution News and Information channel itself. But let's see the Kumato. They're evacuated the hospital, and they're evacuating as much of the township as they can because there's been massive landslides. They're afraid the dam's about to bust, and as of Sunday, they've run out of drinking water. They have all the water in the dam, just no way to get it to the people because the water lines are severed.
Okay, I gotta ask a question. Are we live where they can hear us?
Yeah.
They're not hearing us. Anna just said
yes, they are. Yes, they are. I just checked.
See right here, as of 7 hours ago, a magnitude 7.1 earthquake strikes near Komodo, Japan, at the depth of 7 kilometers.
Wow.
Or kilometers, depending on which way you want to say it.
Wow. Look at the ground. If you look, it's just all cracked up everywhere.
Oh, I think I've posted pictures of the landslides and stuff on Revolution News and Information page itself on Facebook, and it's rather interesting in its own sick, morbid way to look at. I mean, if you're one of those people that wants to look at disasters, why do you watch NASCAR? To watch them crash, you know? It's not because you like left-hand circles all day, people.
There's the landslide. We're covering the landslide right now. I'm getting this going here.
Look at that.
Sure.
Woo, doggy.
Rage, I have the sounds tonight. You have the interview, dude. That's bad stuff. Hey, Toast, let's don't do what we did last night. Let's don't show up your message boards, okay?
Yeah. That's why I said what I said earlier.
Yes, indubitably, Toast. That would be rather unfortuitous.
Okay. So do we want to introduce the guest tonight?
Yes. I thought we were okay. I'm gonna put this back on the screen as soon as I figure out how.
Okay. Anyway, while you're doing that, I can still introduce him. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, guys, we have with us a very good friend of the family. He's like a brother. He's a really good friend, but he also
さて先ほどお伝えしましたけれども、今日未明に起きた震度6強の地震で JNN の調べでは亡くなった方が11人に上っています。そのうち4人の方の身元が新たに判明しています。
Oh, yeah, you say it like it's easy.
熊本市中央区の高村秀次郎さん80歳。西原村の野田陽子さん83歳。同じく西原村の内村正勝さん77歳。鹿島町の田畑剛さん67歳。以上4人の方の身元が判明しました。繰り返しお伝えします。今日未明の熊本県での震度6強の地震で
I check my email 5 times a day, 3 times a night, so it will be checked and it will be addressed. Do not post the name in the room, please. Also, we'd like you to keep smirks down, have fun and chat, talk the way you want. Be nice to the guest is all we ask. And the trolls, I'm going to address them now. If you're trolling, troll nicely. Don't tread on us. Capiche? All right. Rage, take over with your guest, please.
All right. Okay, tonight's guest is Professor Kendall Stevens. He was a professor of environmental sciences in the Department of Water. And he was EPA trained for 20 years of experience. He has 20 years of experience in EPA training centers and field work and studies. He will be our guest tonight. And Toast, if you could get it off the Japanese people, that would be preferred.
All right, I'll kill this live stream.
And also, Anna says she couldn't understand Clovis due to the video sound. So
yeah, I fixed it.
Okay.
Oh, Godzilla, he was attacking.
Can I leave the video going at least?
In a hangout, do we bring back up our camera or do we stay on our emblems?
I'll go ahead and just put it back on our default. There we go.
So we can go back on camera there?
Yeah, we can go back on camera now. I'm turning this off.
It's a picture inside of a picture inside of a picture inside of a picture. You know how much processing that's going to take up?
No.
Yeah, dude.
It's
eyeball before I poke you in that eyeball.
Don't you poke my eyeball.
That's why people love to hear us with radios. Okay.
All right, real quick, before we get on to the interview, I'd like to make a few little things here real quick. Some basic headlines, only from about an hour up. Saturday earthquake triggered landslides in the village of Minami Azo and Komoto, Japan, where mud flows and rocks swept away homes. As of an hour ago, all Colorado Springs United Airlines flights to and from Denver are canceled in preparation for the storms. An hour ago, 3 deaths from heart attacks reported from Komoto Prefecture, Japan, after a 7.0 earthquake. An hour ago, officer-involved shooting reported in Baltimore by Baltimore police. There are protesters protesting outside of the Colorado GOP convention after the convention results. Apparently, they're not happy Trump didn't win the state. Colorado transportation officials closed westbound Interstate 70 at the Floyd Hill to Eisenhower Tunnel due to heavy snows.
In April?
Oh, yeah.
Middle April?
Palm Beach, Florida Zoo closed through the weekend after animal trainer killed in tiger attack. That's in Miami, or Miami, depending on how you say it. As of an hour ago, there was a tornado warning issued in the effect of Dallam and Hartley counties, Texas, until 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Now, I'm pretty sure that's over by now. I would hope. 46 minutes ago, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe planned a visit to Komoto canceled due to the earthquakes. The Democratic presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders, released his 2014 tax returns. There's even more to this. More Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders' tax returns show he gave 4% of his income to charities, effective federal tax rate at 13.4%. So he gave just enough so he could get a tax break. Good for him. Isn't that a good socialist of him? Updates. At least 9 dead in Komoto, Japan after a 7.0 earthquake, authority says, and that was 34 minutes ago. There are protests in Hartford, Connecticut, where Donald Trump is actually doing a rally.
Outside, but it's sprinkling.
Okay, that just went over live air. Would you go talk to Daddy, please? Okay.
Bring my umbrella.
Sure, go. Get shoes on. Sorry, guys. I'm being a mother and newscast. So go ahead, Ray. You didn't have to stop. You could talk over me for that one.
Yes, I understand. When widow files wrongful death lawsuit over deadly plane crash that happened during the filming of Tom Cruise Minna in Colombia. And there are photos showing up of darkened skies near Stratford, Texas. Other than that, that's the latest headlines for the past hour. Now I'd like to welcome our guest, Mr. Kendall Stephen, sorry, to join us.
Hello.
Go ahead and join us, sir.
He did. He said hello.
Oh, we couldn't hear him.
Okay, you got that louder. They all
move closer.
Ears. Okay.
Yeah, good evening. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you?
Wonderful.
Good. I'd just like you to take a minute and tell the crowd who you are and your field of research and studies.
Kendall Stevens, and background in water treatment and water reclamation, and for EPA training centers, mostly in Oklahoma, Missouri, California, Nevada. A lot of sub-information about that category. Try to share anything you push you have this evening.
Mommy, I'm going outside.
Okay. Hi.
Ow!
Wunderbar. I know we were talking earlier and you were telling me about your concerns about something called back siphoning back into main water lines. That could be a major concern as to a way of attacking cities and towns on water grids, as it's just saying. You could open up with you starting talking about that if you would like.
Yeah, one of the new plumbing codes is that new water meters being installed have to have a back position. So they can't push water from the house back into the main water lines. A lot of the older type water meters, it was possible to overpressurize your hot water tanks or anything in the house. You can actually push gray water or tub water or this, that, and the other back into the potable drinking water lines, and real possibility for epidemics, if not pandemics, with the kinds of bacteria and pathogens or toxins. One of the things that they've tightened down considerably since 9/11 is the public water supply storage facilities.
All right. And so what you're explaining is through pressurization, they can actually pump a toxin or bad water back into the system, which allows us to be vulnerable to an attack from within, and we wouldn't even be able to know it.
Yes, I'd say one of the things that's a possibility in our day and time that either on purpose or inadvertently, you could actually push toxins or back into the potable water system by having more pressure on your house. Things like your hot water tank or your sink or even your faucet. You get a higher pressure on your conveyor, you can push it back into the potable water system. They want to maintain at least a 20 psi at all times in your distribution systems. So if your house was on 40 psi, you actually overcome the distribution lines and re-inject water from your house, either with your gray water or toxins or terrorist activities.
And this wouldn't be a very easy process to do, would it? I mean, could anybody just go out and do this if they wanted to, or is this something someone would actually have to take planning onto? Now, don't go into too many details because we don't want any yahoos out there going, "Oh boy, I can do this."
It wouldn't be a very big challenge to overcome.
All right. Now, as I was talking to you about earlier, you did tests for EPA and studies and stuff, and we've covered questions on everything from fracking effects to everyone's responsibility to help protect the aquifers and the water sources, because water, as we both talked about, is a much needed resource and a much needed thing for life. Because as you told me, and I know, and a lot of people may not know, is that the body, just like the planet, is at least 83% water. And there's been a damaging of our water resources here in the country that may be irreversible in a time, as within our lifetime. Over time, it may be reversible, but not within our lifetime. Could we get onto that a little bit?
There's several aquifers across the nation that have just been flat condemned, and water is no longer potable. Everybody's probably familiar with the Love Canal. Years ago, they buried barrels of toxins and manufacturing byproducts, which leached into the groundwater, which caused rampant cancer in the area. Out of sight, out of mind. That aquifer is no longer viable or useful or even California was there are several instances across the nation where industrial waste has been pumped into the ground, either inadvertently or on purpose, just to avoid the high cost of disposal of it. Last name is Brock. I forget her name right off the top of my head, but she was involved in a thing in California that they tried to cover up by the power company of trichloroethylene and degreaser was pumped into the aquifers and caused rampant cancer, and they did everything they could to squelch that out of the law. Now the lawsuit finally came to a fight that would have been tried to slip under the rug. So a person would think that all your water out of your ground is pure and clean and potable and safe to drink. No, it's those days are gone.
Now, a lot of people may not understand what potable water means or potable water. It all depends on where you're from and how it's pronounced. The difference between potable water and groundwater or gray water or wastewater. If you could just give a quick description or in layman's term for us uneducated Carolina country boys out here.
Potable water is just water that's safe to drink. It's not going to cause any free of pathogens. Any toxins will cause health problems. It's potable, it's safe to drink, and no health concerns about it. Wastewater is just the other end of the pipe where the either fecal material or household waste has been flushed down the drain. What comes into a wastewater plant is actually like 99.9% pure water. And the wastewater plant's job is to take that 0.1% of solids and pathogens back out of the water to make it safe to go back into the creeks or rivers or reservoirs. When they discharge this water, it can be treated off to potable water standards again and run through the city to be used again. Once you get past the mindset that it's cleaned up wastewater, you're back to what you drank out of the tap to start with.
What?
That would be a potable water is free of any pathogens or health issues. Wastewater has the solids and pathogens from collection systems, and gray water is just what's the wastewater plants turned out. A lot of places that spend a lot of money or water on irrigating golf courses or water parks in town, they can use the gray water just as well there as wasting money on using potable water. Some parts of the Southwest United States, it's mandated that thou shalt use the gray water that comes out of the end of the wastewater plant to irrigate and rather than using potable water. All three are interrelated. One you drink, one you don't drink. And the solids that come out can be used as a soil conditioner or a disposed either by incineration or landfills or land application under strict regulations. And that's the basic part of that.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess basically potable water good, gray water bad. So plants can drink it, but I can't because I'm not a plant. Got it. Yeah.
Out there that he took the Dasani water and the so-called gray water out into the wastewater plant. Couldn't tell the difference in them. Same clarity, no solids, no. It's been disinfected, no pathogens. It's the technology is there and works very well.
Nice. Now I know you told me that you've done you've gone out in the field and you've done field work and you did testing for several things. What were a lot of the things you tested for?
Well, one of the main things you look for in potable water is no pathogens or fecal coliform. Other things you're concerned about is like the lead issue. All the old lead pipes that were put in and lead solder joints is the thing you test for. There's two criteria that the EPA mandates under the Safe Drinking Water Act that was initiated in the late 60s and early 70s. It's a maximum contaminant level. Above that level, it's harmful to your health. The recommended maximum levels, the other side of the coin, is things which are not necessarily harmful to your health, but it's not aesthetically pleasing, taste, odor, things of that. Chlorine residual is a big thing. They try and keep at least 0.2 milligrams per liter of free chlorine throughout the distribution system to kill any pathogens that may be introduced into the system. Either through cracked pipe or any number of different ways it can intrude.
Now, from my understanding from basic high school science or middle school science for me, all this is possible because water is the universal solvent, and things dissolve into it and go into what is known as into solution, which means it dissolves into it, and eventually either it falls out or it settles somewhere. And from my basic understanding is that the lead gets picked up through the earth or through these pipes and is dissolved into solution. And as we drink it, we may not know it unless there's a taste to it or a smell, which I don't know if there's a smell to lead, but there's definitely a sweet taste to it. Many, many paint chips as a child, you know.
Now, I forget what town in the northeast right now that's going through a lot of controversy on switching their water supply from one city to another. And water can either exist in a corrosive state or depositing state. You can balance the pH, the hardness, and the alkalinity in the water where it won't dissolve the material off the pipes. And of course, corrosive water, like you just mentioned, is a universal solvent that eventually it'll go back into solution. It's kind of like running a factory. You take one product and make it meet state and federal standards where it's safe and pleasant to drink and don't have any health concerns. A lot of things out there that we currently test for over 90 different chemicals on the maximum contaminant level list, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, more chemicals that aren't on the list that are harmful. If they were to build water plants aren't designed to take out a lot of these volatile chemicals or synthetic organic chemicals. They're just designed to take out the solids and neutralize or kill the pathogens. It's kind of a one thing a person doesn't really know the true quality of your water unless you do some extensive testing on it.
Okay. So when it comes to things like chlorine, it's a need an even though the chlorine is damaging to us, it kills all the small pathogens that would hurt us as well.
Yeah, it's like having an insurance policy in your water. If you have enough of a residual in it's pathogens can't exist. Things that are harmful to your health, make you sick, make you die.
Giardia.
Iridium, Giardia cysts, typhoid, cholera, polio, dysentery, hepatitis, or just a few of the things that chlorine is there to make the environment harsh enough where it can exist and reproduce and cause these health concerns. Where in years past, it was pretty prevalent that in the late 1800s that you'd have the household well just a few feet of the outhouse or of the cattle shed or cattle barn. Hence, a lot of people that had compromised immune systems, or younger or older, that they would come down with dysentery and any number of ailments, and had a much shorter lifespan than we expect today.
Kendall, there is a question in chat. We usually don't do. We're going to do call-ins and questions, but Justin wanted to ask, and I have to scroll up here. Justin Floyd, can you ask about the fluoride and the pros and cons of the drinking water, please?
That's like a six-sided cube to try and unravel. One of the justifications they use for fluoride is that it's a mineral that actually makes your enamel in your teeth stronger, less prone to cavities, makes your bones a bit more
stronger.
On the other hand, it's injected into the water systems. It's has to be put in a minute form. I mean, just a drop or two through 1,000 gallons.
And what is it now? 6 million parts per or 6 parts per million now, ppm?
I don't have those numbers right in front of me. That sounds familiar, yes. And a lot of people look at this.
What would be the downside of too much fluoride, actually?
Modeling of the teeth, dental fluorosis. You guys can see brown, looks like brown stains on people's teeth. Drinking high fluoride water, very common down in New Mexico and parts of Colorado. The con side of it for the operators, it's incredibly toxic to work with. I've seen where it's had drips of the stuff, it's minute drip, and over less than a month, it would eat a hole through 6 inches of concrete. Very acidic, and it requires a hazmat suit to work with the stuff, where a lot of towns don't have the knowledge or the safety gear that OSHA mandates that you will have as you work with this stuff. On the other hand, a lot of people, it's a byproduct of the aluminum smelting. There's some thoughts and theories that it costs so much to get rid of it, let's just spread it around the nation, we'll put it in the water, let everybody have a little bit of it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. In Europe, it's just unheard of. They would not even think about putting fluoride in the water. We tried to bomb Europe
because it would damage
the Stone Age, and there's parts of Europe that their aquifers are poisoned and with heavy metals, fluorides, etc., manufacturing byproducts that will never recover. So it's kind of it's still a debatable pros and cons issue, but right now most water plants do add trace amounts of fluoride to decrease cavities and make your skeletal system stronger.
Understandable. Now I know that the EPA just released a study recently. I was watching it on another channel, Davos 7, If you've ever heard of him, I don't think so. But he was covering how the EPA just announced that fluoride in high enough amounts, or fluoride is a neurotoxin or neurotoxic, and in too much of a quantity, the acidity levels can actually eat holes through the neurons or eat holes into your brain. And you and I were talking about too much fluoride in the body can cause the bones to become overly hard, with them to become brittle. And then they will fracture more easily, or not easily. It's just they become hardened, and if just like metal, if it's over hardened, it breaks easier.
Yes, exactly. Cast iron is very hard, but it's brittle under stress.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
yes,
blah 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 blah. Excuse me. I'm reading over these things that we talked about earlier. Now,
hey, hold on. Rage, I don't mean to interrupt. I have a question before it escapes my mind, and Rage knows me. I'm pretty ditzy there. These chemtrails, we know they're chemicals that are being strode out into the air. It rains, the chemicals fall. Is that going down to our underground into our water table?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Wow, really?
Water out here, that's what recharges the aquifers, and if there's any bulk organic chemicals or chemtrails in the rainwater, yes, it can get back into our aquifer recharge zones, back into your lakes and reservoirs, and thus make it the water not potable and toxic to even bathe or swim or less drink.
So people with well water.
Do you believe in the chemtrails then?
We're not going into that subject right now. So the people who have wells, their water is just as contaminated as any other water, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Possibility.
Possibility. Okay. Wow.
Today I was walking, long story, but in my childhood, I remember seeing a old hand-dug well beside the road in this fence road. And over the years, the brush and the trees had grown up, and I kind of forgotten about it. But I was walking down that fence road today and came back up on it. And it was a old hand-dug well with a field stone lining in it. And it had water within about the top 5 feet of the surface. So in that scenario, that not too far from there was a Ozark Palace with multiple treasures in the yard, and they hadn't been real good about carrying all their trash off. So anything that drained off that yard or off that site or off the highway, a direct injection site back into the aquifers. So a person would have the assumption that the aquifers are clean and pure, that they can be under extreme influence from surface water infiltration. Good question.
Thank you. Well, I mean, the chemicals, we know they have to get rid of them some way or another. So they're throwing them into the air. It drops. It hits the ground. It goes into the soil, into the water table. Same as a river or a pond or where there's fish. Oh, wow. Everything's getting contaminated.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, we're all going to die someday.
Well, I don't think that's contrary. I believe we're all going to die. And if I ever leave this world alive, then I don't know what to tell you.
I never leave this world alive. Okay, that's a whole nother segment. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say even in years past, in the cowboy and Indian days, that I had met one gentleman that they were drinking out of water out of a pristine spring. Looked clean, looked clear, no solids, no whatsoever, but it was full of cryptosporidium, which causes intense intestinal distress and ailments that can last 3 to 6 months, if not years. So a person really can't trust the water just on spring water to be inside the pool.
If I may, I would like to chime in. What y'all are seeing on screen is the inside of one of the chemtrail planes. Yeah, this stuff's real. So I figure I'd just show you that real quick on screen, but please continue, sir.
From the chemtrails. That's the tanks carrying the stuff. But, yeah.
Yeah, one thing, it's been done before in years. They talk about cloud seeding.
Yeah, cloud seeding.
Actually fly across a moisture-rich part of the clouds, and they drop the particles, and the water has something to adhere to. Thus, it causes rainfall in parched or droughts parts of the nation. The deepness of the water table, the difference in its security, yes and no. For example, up here in the Ozarks, we're known as a karst formation. There was a huge inland sea years ago, and the calcium off the different types of fauna that thrived there, as they died, they made layer upon layer of many, if not hundreds of feet deep of calcium. As the water ran down through it, it would dissolve the calcium and form caves. So a lot of places out here, you can see where the aquifer could be, hundreds, if not thousands of feet deep, but there's fissures in the soil that allow that surface water may or may not have contaminants to leach down into the aquifers. There's no magic zone down there that says, big stop sign says, halt here, no further infiltration allowed. And this water can travel feet, miles, any number of distances over a matter of time. So you might think your water is safe here, but 20 miles away, they
he's reading the chat as he's doing. That's one downfall we have with him being on my side of the fence, being interviewed. People are asking questions left and right in chat, Rage, as we speak. So they're really getting interested in what he has to say. Hidden says, could I ask the professor how he thinks they conceal the methane leak and why he thinks the opened it further and didn't attempt to repair?
Natural gas is actually just high-grade methane. Methane has a BTU value of about 600 to 700 BTUs for natural gas, and purified methane is about 1,000 BTUs per cubic foot. I'm not really familiar with the methane leak or where it's at, but
I can't wait to open up the call lines, but please continue, sir.
Methane gas is in some instances, it's used at wastewater plants. It's generated from anaerobic bacteria, and you can run a diesel motor on natural gas as well as methane, as long as you add a little bit of diesel with it to keep it lubricated. I don't know why they're not plugging the line. Or the
from research that I've done and people I've actually met who have done it, who have converted either their cars or generators to either natural gas or propane, they'll tell me that the burning temperature of this natural gas and propane is a lower burning temperature or a lower flash point, so it's less wear and tear on the engine. It's a less violent explosion than gasoline, and it is actually more efficient on the motor and in fuel efficiency. And it actually draws the question of why they haven't done it if it's more efficient, other than just plain old-fashioned petrol oil greed. I really don't know how to address that other than just to say because of greed.
Actually, a lot of farmers try to convert over to natural gas because it was so much cheaper. And the reason they got away from that, even at my big farm we have out in Oklahoma, the reason we got away from it because there is no oil product left, and it doesn't lubricate your piston walls and all the rest of it that need to be lubricated. So you don't have that extra oil that you need in there to keep that motor from seizing up on you. There's a good reason for gasoline. It's got a petroleum base, and the petroleum base lingers behind, and it leaves so much of that petroleum behind, and it actually lubricates as it fires, even though we're trying to put it in as a gas form. The higher you put it in as a gas form, the more combustible, of course, it can be.
And that was Tom Harmon, my husband. He's another guest on the show, evidently. Thank you, Tom.
lot about that.
Go ahead, Rage.
Well, it's good to get input from anybody who actually knows, other than just hearsay. People who have done it hands-on. That's always a good plus.
Exactly.
One thing
So there.
officers mentioned earlier about the surface water infiltration. There's a situation they call it losing streams, where the creek or a river or a channel of water actually infiltrates down into the gravel or the fissures and into the aquifers, and it just no telling where it can show up later.
Okay, there is a question here from Nanya. She keeps mentioning, he keeps mentioning the Animas River in Colorado.
Oh, the one with the EPA somehow broke open a mine seal and flooded the river.
Yeah.
That was just that was a snafu. But all that water was caught down in those mines, and tailing were very high in heavy metals and mining byproducts, which they had sealed, trying to keep it out of the aquifers. And I forget all the details exactly how they got broke the seal on it that flooded the river for miles and miles, and still an ongoing impact that'll probably take years, if not decades, to reverse itself.
Okay. Rage, I'm reading the chat, and you can try to do that too, so you can bring up some of these questions. We're reading the chat. Live Straw personal water filter. You want to hit that one?
Yeah, I say
Banana.
yeah, a live straw is not a bad thing to have. A person can go about 3 days without water until you really get dehydrated. Your vital organs start shutting down. These live straws or personal water filters, they're good for. They're rated for so many gallons that can be drawn through them, and they have removal efficiencies of things down to less than 2 microns. If you get water that pure, that's filtering out all the pathogens, Cryptosporidium, and you're back to clean water that won't be having any harmful effects to you. So any water source could be used for them, but they're not indefinite cure. They're only good for so many gallons of usage. They have an
So you
extended.
don't just using it as a water filter, just as an emergency situation, huh?
Yeah, the way things are nowadays, with here in the Midwest, we're looking at tornadoes, coasts, the hurricanes, like the earthquake faults that San Francisco, or we have here in the Midwest. These water lines, ground shifts enough, and distribution lines are cracked and no longer able to supply you with surface water that you may have another place that's available.
Okay. What is how easy would it be for terrorists to hit our water sources? Or would it be easy at all?
It wouldn't be an insurmountable challenge.
What do you mean?
Not wanting to drop any ideas in anybody's head, but it's a
Yeah, let's not violate any weird. Give anybody any weird ideas, should I say?
Thank
Please
you, Toast.
continue.
But after 9/11, they started tightening down the observation and surveillance of water supplies in their facilities and towers. And one of the things they brought forth is that the public was probably the most valuable resource in that, noticing some unusual activity around the water storage tanks, towers, abnormal taste or color in the water. This public awareness that there is possibility of that, and if you notice anything unusual, contact the authorities right away and take a sample of the water for further testing.
There you go. Justin wants to know, can you ask him if bottled water is as clean as they advertise, or is it just a scam to get more of our money?
I wish I didn't.
Yeah, that is a good
water. I invested in the water industry years ago. It's a actually the water you buy out of the bottled water is governed by the Food and Drug Administration, where your potable water from municipalities is governed by EPA. The purity of the water, one thing that drives a lot of it is the taste and odor. Here in the Ozarks, it's not unusual to have a sulfur water which smells like rotten eggs. It's not going to kill you to drink it, but you're not going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is they take and a lot of your storage tanks and your towers and your distribution lines have biofilm inside them. And they'll actually, when chlorine reacts with that, it gives off a taste and odor. Maybe a muddy, fishy taste, something's not pleasant to drink. So people will pay money to buy bottled water for the taste and the aesthetically taste of it.
Well, here's a trick question. Which bottled water do you buy?
I don't buy bottled water.
You drink the well water?
I drink well water.
Okay. Now, if there was, let's say, for instance, a catastrophic situation hit the nation, and you say how you can, people can only go 3 days with no water. How long would that water I have sitting over there, that bottled water I no longer want, how long will it keep?
On the bottom of the bottles, it will have an expiration date. It's a good question, because people will ask you, well, how can water get too old and not be safe to drink anymore? The plastic that's stored inside is what the kicker is. They'll actually absorb the PCBs of a plastic into the water, which is toxic. So if you're going to have water, it has to be a type of plastic which won't leach back into the water and be able to be stored for indefinite periods of time.
Like milk jug plastic, that type of plastic?
That kind of plastic's only designed to hold the contents for X amount of period of time so it gets start leaching into it. I'm sure one example is that when you have a water cooler and you're out, you fill it full of ice and great water, and it's just great to drink that day, but you leave it on the truck or the construction.
Asked, is it true if you pour your water regularly when storing it, regenerates?
You're oxidizing the water, putting oxygen back into it, which frees the any volatile or taste and odor issues. That's one thing that they do with the sulfur water is they let it run down through a cascading tower per se, and as it pours from one level to the next level to the next level, the gases come out of solution, and down at the bottom you can't smell it or taste it.
Justin has another question. I heard it can be dangerous leaving a case of water in a hot car for too long. Is that true?
Yes.
What does it do?
Absorbs the plastic out of the container it's held in.
Oh.
Speeds up the decomposition of the plastic.
Mental note. Next time I leave a case of water in my trunk at 102 degree temperature, don't drink it.
No, it's
okay.
Now again,
I've done that.
It depends on the length of time it was stored there, the temperature, and a lot of variables coming into it. But yes, you can tell a difference. That's one thing about.
So people who's just prepping, still saying, and they're buying tons of water like that, which we buy it. You see the 2 cases because we go through water. I won't be drinking that no more, but
no.
I'd rather drink my well water. But so they're storing all this water up thinking that it's going to be okay, and truly that plastic is leaking into that water.
Leaching,
yeah.
It's a choice.
Let's say it's a case of water. It's been there for 2 years.
It'd be best to rotate your water supply.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay. What you being a person of study, and you actually probably would know this. What is the standard acidity or pH level of water?
They try to keep it around a pH of 7.2, slightly on the basic side, so it's compatible with your blood system, your digestive, and your body. Too acidic. That's would be like orange juice is down around on the acidic side, down around 2 or 3. Real high basic water, a lot of calcium in it, up around 9 to 12. So that's one thing they try and keep a control on by either adding calcium, soda ash, or adjusting the pH someplace to keep it within a range. It's not going to be harmful to your digestive system.
Okay, I have a personal question. Go ahead, Rach. I can ask it anytime.
I was just gonna ask an odd question. What is the when I was younger, I used to hear all these things about hard water and soft water. What is the difference between hard water and soft water?
Good question.
Hard water, it's one example a lot of people can relate to is you put a pot of water on to boil, and you get busy doing something else. You come back later, you boil the pot dry, and you'll see a layer of kind of like gray calcification inside the pot. That's the minerals that were dissolved in the water that came out of solution when you boil the water away. Just the minerals were left, and that's considered to be a hard water. Soft water, it's lack of minerals. A lot of industrial processes work best at either end of the scale, either as a hard water constituent or as a soft water.
Oh my God.
Manufacturing.
Remember that sign I had at my pool? Okay, first question up here was, I was reading it till Justin popped in with that one. Hidden. What benefits are derived from water that gets charged with iron and silver, etc.?
Ion, silver, etc.
Silver is actually a very good antibiotic. It was used in the was so popular back in the biblical days. They put a piece of silver in a pot of water. It was like adding disinfectant to it. The issue about adding ions to it, there's not really some hard cases to lives up to one of their advantages of having it.
Okay.
But yeah, silver is a real good antibiotic and actually was used in. You can buy a antibiotic cream that has silver impregnated with it, and it's it'll kill just about anything.
Okay. Justin wants to know. Oh, remember that trick we played on your son? Okay.
Oh.
Justin wants to know: is it safe swimming in public pool where kids are going pee in it?
Really good question.
It's a dilution thing. They monitor the chlorine residual in the swimming pools and try and keep a high enough dose in it that it'll overcome any ammonia or any health issues.
Present.
Sunlight causes chlorine to come out of solution real quick. So a lot of places that have public swimming pools will use salt instead of chlorine. But it's a risk factor if your child was immunocompromised and got bodily fluids.
Okay, I have a question. With them regulating with chlorine, I think they're pretty much killing what bacteria might be in there. Maybe. Am I wrong?
Yeah, they could do routine testing on all your public water supplies, the furthest point out in the system, weekly, daily, monthly. Make sure there's at least 0.2 milligrams per liter of free chlorine present all the time. So if there was any bacteria that got into the system, there would be something they're waiting to neutralize and kill it.
Okay, now I do know that chlorine can dry the skin if it's overexposed too much with chlorine and sun.
Yeah, chlorine is a very acidic, and it will pull the moisture and the lanolin out of your skin.
Okay, because in our pool, as you swam there many a times, it was salt water.
Yes.
We had salt water regulated, and it was better to the skin. But was we getting an intake of too much salt into our pores?
some people that have kidney compromised illnesses, they're on a strict regimen of no more than X amount of salt, per day. There's not much different than drink and bathe in the salt water in the ocean.
Okay, it's the same thing then.
It'd be a small ingestion.
All right. Well, in a minute here, I'm seeing Toast jumping up and down, and he's excited. He wants to open up the phone line soon. So in a minute here, we're going to open the phone lines for people to call in. And I would like to let you know that you will be respectful or you will be dropped. And if you are disrespectful, we will post your number in chat. Thank you.
We will post it in chat, not just chat. I'll Twitter that puppy, okay? So let's respect guests. Sometimes we get shows that like to be rude. And
also, please, if you're going to call in, please go ahead and jump in the call queue. Don't mind the music. I will merge the call as soon as I see people in there.
Yes, and you've got any questions you wish to ask him, you can. Rage, would you keep up the conversation with him, please, while they do their calls or questions, please?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've noticed. Go on.
I'm going to step away from the computer, let him get closer so he can read chat himself and answer questions within the conversation. That will help a lot. Here, Kendall, come on over here and take over this side of the table. And you can scoot in there and you can read the chat yourself and answer questions and whatever you need to do. I get a break. Woo-hoo! Okay, carry on.
Now, I know some when I was younger, on my grandparents' property, not just on my grandparents' property, but across the street, there was a spring that used to pop up in the middle of the neighbor's yard. And I'm from the Low Country. I'm from Charleston myself, and there, springs were everywhere. But here in the Piedmont of the Carolinas, this spring used to be up in the middle of the neighbor's yard, and over time I've noticed that it's dried out, and the only time it ever really pops back up is when it rains. Now, is that what you were talking about as our water tables are dropping and drying out? There will be effects like that more often?
Yes. Now, you can almost picture that spring across the road in your yard as a garden hose that ran underground to some higher point. It's that higher point the water, either through the recharge zone or through a aquifer or some induction of water into that pipe. The pressure of the water above it was pushing it down through that confined aquifer and out the hole in the yard.
Wow. Yeah, because the spring used to feed into a creek area and used to flow all the way through and back here. And it used to be a swampy marsh area. Now it's drying up slowly. And becoming more of a habitat for deer and other animals to go and play in, I guess. But I've noticed over time since I was a kid, it used to be always running with water now, and then now as I'm an adult, there's almost no water in there unless it rains.
The population density, and here in the United States, a common number you can think about is that the personal use anywhere from 80 to 120 gallons plus or minus of water per day. So as more and more people tap into these aquifers, there's less water available, and thus the water table drops. And you can almost look at that garden hose that doesn't have the amount of water coming into it that it used to in years past. It's being depleted. It's a big problem nationwide that our aquifers are dropping significantly year by year. And it will take...
Q&A session started.
We have a caller.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Caller, you are on the air.
Yes, this is Dustin Floyd out of Sacramento. I just want to, first of all, say thank you to the guest for taking his time to answer these questions. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's a privilege to be able to share them with you. How can I help you?
Yes, sir. I've already asked a few questions. Now, I was in a doctor appointment at the beginning of the interview, so if you already answered this one, I apologize. But I live in Sacramento, and I actually I don't really fish. My buddy went fishing at Rio Vista, and they had signs posted up to only eat one fish a month. because there's mercury in the water. I was just wondering what your take is on eating fish out of the polluted waters these days, or is it safe? Or I'm just curious what your take is on as far as fishing and if it's safe to eat the fish or not.
Yeah, that's a valid warning. I would adhere to what the sign says. Mercury is in our atmosphere from emissions, not only from our exhaust pipes, but industrial emission. And mercury poisoning is not a fun way to die. And so I would, if they're posting a sign of fish per month, yes, it's a valid point and a true health concern I would adhere to. Good question.
I sorry about that.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yeah, they're in the San. Go ahead.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. I apologize. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I'm originally from Northern California in the Eureka and Humboldt County area, and it's a lot of our offshore fish are being influenced from surface water runoff from agricultural, industrial sites, municipal sites, et cetera, that the fish are what they eat has mercury in it. It stays in their fatty tissue, and when we eat it, it comes right to us and goes in our fatty tissue, and it's a valid concern that we didn't have to face 100 years ago, but it's there now.
And on that same question, they say like catfish, they're supposed to be bottom feeders. What does, I don't know, you know, I'm not real, I don't know how mercury works, but does it sink to the bottom? And if so, would it be, is there different types of fish that might be healthier to eat? Like if a catfish is a bottom feeder, is it more acceptable to maybe digesting mercury, or is there any thought on that?
Actually, all fish are at risk. It's hard to say that one type is less prone to contamination than another one. One of the standards they go by in chemistry and science is that water is used as a standard of 1. Anything heavier than 1 will sink. Anything lighter, like hydrogen, will tend to float to the highest point it can get to. And mercury being a heavy metal, yes, it would fall to the bottom and be absorbed by plankton, algae, etc., that fish thrive and digest. Yeah, there's parts of the country you just don't eat.
Mercury density is 13.6, where water is 1.
Yes, so the fish.
Yeah, okay, well, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead with your question. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun here.
I always have a problem when I call in. I never know when to talk, or because I hate interrupting people, and I always seem to do it, but it's not on purpose. I can promise you that. But so apparently, and you said you're from, or you lived in Northern California. Are you familiar with Rio Vista? And if so, it's about 20 miles away from Sacramento. I would imagine if they had those signs, I mean, just seeing those signs really, you know, after that, I didn't want to eat any fish out of the water. I mean, that's 1 fish a month. I mean, to me, that's almost like shaking the dice. I mean, it just kind of freaked me out that, you know, I mean, you can't even eat fish out of the, you know, go fish and eat your fish because it'll hurt you. It's just a shame that our planet has came to this point where the fish are polluted and we can't even eat the fish. And I mean, it's just sad in my opinion. And that's all I got, sir. And I'm going to get off the line. Yes, sir.
It sounds like people are playing fishing roulette.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the through lack of knowledge and lack of information and public empathy, a whole range of things has brought us to this brink of realizing that water is our most valued resource above anything else. And through our lifestyle, pleasure, manufacturing, whatever, if we had to do over again, I'm sure the mercury would be held and processed, not allowed to pollute our reserves and reservoirs of water. Hindsight's 2020. That's what we do. Take what we have now and the information and the trends and that our foodstuffs, fish, for example. A lot of our diet is laced with toxins.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're giving us GMOs right and left from Monsanto. So, I mean, you're damn if you do, you're damn if you don't. I mean, I would imagine even going hunting, you know, with a permit legally, you hunt for game and you know, clean it and everything and you cook it. Well, that game is probably drinking out of water that has been contaminated in one form or another. So, I mean, it's almost like anything anymore these days that we eat. Like he said, playing roulette. I mean, you know, it's just sad to me that, and not only just on a, you know, I don't want to, even for the animals and the fish. I mean, I feel bad that they're contaminated. I mean, it just seems like we've run this our planet, you know, to the ground, you know, run it out, and it's just sad. And that's all I got, sir. And I'm going to get off the line. And I thank you very much for taking my question.
You're welcome. Good question. Nice to visit with you.
Thank you, Justin, for calling in.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right.
That aspect is here we are trying to use ethanol as a resource to help us with our pollution issues, but yet on the other return of that is how many gallons of water it takes to produce 1 gallon of ethanol. It's just extreme, and it just, to me, it's not a good source of energy. We need to be looking at some other source. My opinion.
That was the opinion of Tom Harmon again.
Ethanol is good for something. You can put it in water and then sterilize your water and drink it.
Yeah.
It's the right ethanol.
Where I'm from, we call it corn whiskey. You drink it. It's beeping at us, Toast.
Justin was going to listen in on the line. Okay. But the music's going to play if he left the room. I was going to reconnect it before he left. That's all right.
Okie dokie.
But I'll just reconnect the line if I see anybody else connect to the call-in system.
All right, let me check here.
I got a question.
Yes,
Let's
ma'am.
say our power grids get hit. Okay. What's going to happen to the dams? They work through electricity, am I correct?
Yeah, they work through electricity, and one thing they're worried about now is like the so-called dirty bomb, which will fry all the microcircuitry that controls the power generation and the distribution system. Water,
EMP.
will occur in the turbines, but the automated control systems aren't functioning.
Which would mean what?
No power to your house.
Well, I know the house, but I'm talking the dams.
Oh, the dam will still be there.
It's got overflow systems on it built into it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's
well,
mechanically or mechanized gates to open and close to maintain the level.
okay. All right. Gotcha.
You know, the stored energy is still there, but it's just not going to be able to, with our present infrastructure, not be able to they distribute it onto the grid.
Okay, now we were talking about, me, Brenda, and Rage and Toast was talking about it one time in our hangout where we go to talk about the stream. We have so many people flushing medications, and little
Yeah,
kids,
reclamated water problem.
toilet, mice, people flush mice, AIDS victims, blood. Some people flush fetuses. I mean, it's just out there. How are they not keeping that from getting into the water system in which we drink and bathe in?
When at first, wastewater plants aren't designed to take pharmaceuticals or a lot of the volatile and organic chemicals that are introduced into it. They're designed to take the solids out of the water and just leave the water, but there can be a lot of things that are still dissolved in it, from the excretion of medicines, any number of things. They're not. Whereas if they had an activated carbon plant which absorbs a lot of these things, along with membrane filtration, they can filter these byproducts out and be left with ultra pure water. But that's a big issue right now, that we're a medicated nation. Not only do we flush extra medicine, but we also excrete a large portion of what goes into our body.
Okay.
Yeah, our body's only able to absorb about 30% of medication, and anything other than that is excreted out through bio waste or biomass.
Well, they've done several studies about the endocrine disruptors. Like the effluent of a wastewater plant, or the so-called gray water, done surveys of fish, and they're finding abnormal levels of more female fish than they are male fish. It's actually getting into the DNA structure and mutating the fish population and its biostructure. Things such as birth control, antibiotics, a whole gamut of things that flow through the wastewater plant, and the fish downstream absorb it, and it disrupts their basic blueprint of reproduction. And
oh boy.
Yes, sir. And you'll see a lot of you'll see a lot more of this come to the forefront in the next few years as it becomes more common knowledge that ways to make our body absorb more of the medicine that we take, and places that are easily accessible to dispose of unwanted medicines or things.
I live close to 3 dams. All I have is mechanical overrides.
Oh, okay, yeah, 3 dams that all have mechanical overrides. Yeah, mechanical. A lot of the things still run on, straight 3-phase electricity. But then you go down the line a little bit, and you get into the CPUs, central processing units that distribute the power to the areas of need. That's the ones that will be affected. That distribution system is incredibly reliant upon solid-state electronics versus hardwired controls.
A question from my house. Is there any truth in water dowsing?
Yes. That's one of the it goes back into biblical times of dowsing rods that sounds like witchcraft, but I've actually done it and seen it and read studies on it. They really can't explain where the power comes from or why it would actually make a stick physically bend in your hands if there's a current or water or a path of flow under you. It's it's a valid technology. It's used extensively in locating underground constructions that prints that have never been documented.
Okay, now I wanted to ask a question. Me and Rach talked about this earlier. with everyone taking from the crust of the ground, the minerals, the oil, the water tables and everything, what is that doing to our earth? Because Mother Earth is going to get ticked and fight back.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, and we're pretty much
stripping it.
X amount of close to the swaying the natural balance to the negative, and our environment, atmosphere, water, resources can't maintain it. Thus, cause failure. We're pretty close to the edge.
Okay.
Okay, Rage, you took notes down. You want to hit some of them issues that you and him talked about earlier? You had a really good conversation earlier.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did seem to have a really good conversation earlier. Let me go back over my notes. We covered a good bit of this so far about he tested for bacteria and chemicals in water sources, minimum of 20 to 40 pounds of PSI, and back siphoning. Oh yeah. What have you noticed, or what have been the effects of fracking on water tables? Has that damaged the water tables, or does that damage the water itself? I mean, is that poisoning our water? What would you say it's doing?
It's a pretty much a site by site scenario. When they go down to these oil bearing strata, as they put in the drill pipe, that they'll actually concrete it, put enough concrete under pressure out of the bottom of the drill hole that'll push concrete back up the outside of the pipe and isolate that aquifer from any contamination that's being worked on down below. They'll go down to the layer where they have the oil they're trying to harvest or get out of it, and they call them fracking guns. It's like a huge shotgun shell. So they'll just blow a hole in the side of the pipe, and then they're just working on that one zone. It's they're strictly regulated nowadays, whereas in years past, a lot of things were just done oriented towards production. And yes, there has been aquifers that have been contaminated with it and no longer potable to be used. It's a work in progress. There's more understanding and more stringent controls on it now than there were in years past. But still, you're upsetting the natural balance. For example, in Oklahoma, a person would think that there'd be no earthquakes there, but there was actually on a yearly basis.
You got the Madrid Fault near there or something, right?
Yeah, the New Madrid Fault's over on the Mississippi eastern edge of Missouri, Illinois, etc. But by fracking, there in the Oklahoma and California, they're actually lubricating the fault lines and allowing them to be able to slip and shift easier by rejecting the fracked water.
Rage, read chat and see what Danya's saying.
Okay, I'm reading. Hold on.
All right.
Great question. What are our guest thoughts on Fukushima and the lasting effects on water?
On water?
I'm guessing it's on water because our guest is a water expert. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there on the coast, the radioactive contamination of the aquifers. Radioactivity has a half-life of X amount of years. A lot of this stuff will still be active, tens of thousands of years from now. When it got loose, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. A risk to keep electricity.
Yeah, that's something I often think about because when I was a kid, I know that certain things have a different densities. Is the density of water, does that help shield radiation, or is it more prone to absorb radiation? Does the half-life increase in water, or is it just or does it just sink to the bottom like any other heavy material? or radiation itself isn't heavy, it's an energy source, but does the energy in the water dissipate quicker than it would on a solid surface, or?
No, it's in a stable state, whether it's in the atmosphere, in the water, or in the ground. It's still relying on its tied back to its half-life of how long it will take it to break down. You'll see a lot of the.
Go on. Sorry.
Well, they store the. In nuclear reactors, they have the water bath around the rods to control the temperature of the nuclear regeneration, which gives off heat. So they use a water to convey the steam and the excess heat away from it. That's why you'll see a lot of all these nuclear power plants. You'll always see steam coming out of the cooling tower. That's just the excess steam is being dissipated rather than driving the turbines, leaving the pressure off.
I know a little bit about that topic on nuclear power plants. I actually once had a dream to become a nuclear power plant operator. That would have been
Is it because you watched a lot of The Simpsons, Toast?
No. I actually watched, and I do have a simulator game on my computer, nuclear power plant. Anyway, you got water that goes through the reactor, heated. There's a couple different types of reactors, but it all works the same way. I'm just going to give you the one of the versions. You got your boil water reactor, which sends water through the reactor, goes into a turbine, then a cooling tower, and then back to the reactor. And the cooling towers are just excess heat from the reactor after it's been through the turbine and cooled with the heat exchanger. That's how it works.
So it uses the as the rods come up, they excite the molecules in the water, which generate steam, pump it through a steam turbine, and then as a matter of cooling, it goes up through a cooling tower, condenses, falls back down.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I got a question. We all eat chicken. We all buy from Tyson's Chicken and all these other poultry plants. How much water, Kendall, and this is right up your alley, how much water do they use in a day when processing their chicken?
That's a statistic they keep close track of. I know of one facility, it's doing broilers, like chicken breasts or eggs or whatever. And the last numbers I are familiar with is anywhere from like 3.5 to 4.5 gallons per bird.
Wow.
I know of one facility here in the Southwest, Missouri, that they used an excess of 12 million gallons a day.
12 million gallons a day. And that reservoir out back of that company, what is that? Just the waste of the water?
Settling pond.
Yeah. Products off the kill line.
Okay. And does that water, it just sits there? Is it leaking down into our water table?
No, it's the EPA has some very unique ways of encouraging industry to stay within, keep the water of a potable and quality water, and they can get fined up to $10,000 to $25,000 per day if they do find them putting water out that doesn't meet their specifications on their quality.
Okay.
Problem being is that all that water is being pulled out of aquifers, out of groundwater. Where used to you had maybe had a well, your personal well and the water table was 100 feet down. You can pull water from 100 feet to your house or to your residence. By them pulling abnormally large amounts of water out of these aquifers, instead of having a water table at 100 feet, it may have dropped down to 200 to 300 feet. It's like they're putting a giant straw in the ground and sucking all the water up.
Okay, now I seen a question earlier that just reminded me. I'm not near the computer, guys. Kendall is. The well, if you have well water, what is the best level to go down to for good water?
That would be hard to say. There's no
Depending
no
on where you're
standard
at.
question for it.
Yes,
No
depending
standard
on where you're at, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, what type of country? Like someone mentioned, North Carolina, Carolinas versus Florida versus the Midwest versus the San Joaquin Valley, different rock strata, different infiltration rates. There's no set number that would be the magic number. You go down X amount of feet, you're okay.
Thank you, Anna. I'm keeping an eye on that. Thank you, girl.
Now,
Okay.
when I was a kid, they taught us that it took about 15 feet of cubic earth to filter water. So if you're at a water source, if you went 15 feet away and dug a hole 3 feet down, and the water eventually would come to that hole because it goes to the lowest point because water follows the path of least resistance. That water would be therefore naturally earth filtered. Is that still possible now, or is things just too contaminated? Is that?
It would be a risky thing to rely on the ground to filter any kind of pathogens out. Some situations, no problem. Others that probably would be a wise decision. But at least it has gone through some bit of filtration through the earth.
Well, like I said, I grew up in the low country in the Carolinas. I grew up in Charleston area, and if you dug 3 feet down in your backyard, if you dug 3 feet down, as soon as you went more than 3-4 inches, you hit the water table, man. And if you dug a 3-foot hole in an hour, that thing, if you left it there after about an hour, it'd be about half full of water. So it was pretty shallow water table there for a while until the big droughts hit in the southeast. So that's one of my next questions. Have all these droughts really affected our water tables, and how long do you think it's going to take for those water tables to repair or get back to normal?
There's not really a set number on that. It's you're looking at decades, if not centuries, for it to recharge itself. We're using water here in the Midwest out of the Ogallala Aquifer that was left there back there in the Ice Age, and we're depleting that thing by a foot, 1 to 3 feet per year, pulling the water out, where it took millenniums, years for it to soak down into that aquifer. And once you pull the water out of these aquifers, the weight of the soil will actually compact itself again, and you lose that storage capacity. So a lot of these aquifers that are being pulled out of and the water table is dropping, we've lost the resource or the area or the volume to be recharged with.
Now, something like you were saying about how shallow you can dig and hit water out in the Washington area around the Sumner Valley area, you used to be able to dig about 2 feet to 3 feet. And actually back in the early 50s or the late 50s and the early 60s, it was considered drinking water. It was actually a potable water that was drinkable. But due to the pollution and all the pollution dumped and mining and everything else where they done, acid mining and stuff, it's non-drinkable now. You cannot drink that water.
Yeah, I've noticed that. And as a kid, man, it was nothing. It was nothing to carry a canteen with you. You hiking through the woods, you find a creek, fill it up with water, drink it. And I'm in my early 30s now, and let me tell you, between then and now, it has gone from it was okay or it was not that bad for you to find a good water source as long as it was running. A good running water source, fill up your canteen, you were fine. But now, as I've gotten older, it's like you see signs popping up everywhere, like "Don't drink this water." Now, I live in an area that's right on some branch of the Crowder's Creek. And there used to be hobo glyphs all over this thing that pointed out that this was good water and clean water. And I've drank it once or twice as a kid, but there's all sorts of old mills that have been shut down left and right and different things here. And I just don't know if that's trustable as of now. But I know that if times really hit the fan and the systems were to go down, I could drink that water if I had to. I know how to dig a well if I have to. I don't want to because I'm a human, and all humans, we're just like water, just like energy. We tend to follow the path of least resistance. We're inevitably going to be lazy about some things. So if I don't have to now, I'm not going to.
You could always build your own filter. You use limestone at the bottom, larger stones at the bottom, and then put the smaller stones on top. Then you put your hardwood charcoals on top.
Yeah, charcoal on it with some sand on the very top.
and sand bed it again.
And I've looked into that actually, and I had on a forum posted about how to make your own basic filters out of even a water bottle with charcoal, sand, and gravel. Okay. And that would be good for maybe a gallon or 2 or 3 because it was so small, but you couldn't do like 50 gallons. You could only do like 4 or 5 gallons.
You're not going to take a bath in it. So you can upscale volume.
That and the knowledge of that my Native American heritage, Native Americans tend to have an enzyme in their stomach that allows us to break down certain kinds of water pathogens a lot better than people of the Caucasian descent, which means that I can drink some scummy water that you can't, but doesn't mean I want to. That's from centuries of selective breeding and survival of the fittest. That's how that got there.
Now, even on that same point that, water from a river or reservoir or creek, that the fish don't get out of the water to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, fish spawn in there, y'all.
So you're still...
Or do the cattle when they go in across the creeks.
And there are standards that EPA suggests that no more than so many colonies of fecal coliform per 100 mils is a safe, I think it's a safe level that average person wouldn't become ill on it. But over that level, they can't even, everybody's got swimmers for one example.
I have a question.
I think EPA could find the fish, they would.
What would you usually find at the bottom of an old well that still has water in it? Like what type of minerals, and would they be poisonous to humans?
Again, it goes back to site specific. Here in the Midwest, there's actually strata that has radon and radioactive nuclides in it. You can find that in a well. Other wells that have no surface infiltration, the calcium, magnesium, iron, whatever that settle towards the bottom of the well wouldn't be toxic. So again, it's a kind of a site-specific question, with leaning towards the safe side of things. That I would want to filter the water, any kind of solids out of it if I had to drink it. Like Tom mentioned earlier, the homemade water filtration, which is actually the same thing that public water filtration systems do use: layers of gravel, activated carbon, sand, gravel to strain the particulate matter out of it. It would be a host for pathogens to attach themselves to.
Well, thank you for answering my question.
If everybody thinks back, I mean, the Oklahoma Run, they made the Oklahoma Run, but one of the biggest problems they had was when they dug their wells. Most of the wells in the upper portion of like panhandles and on out, they were all filled with gypsum, high contents of gypsum. Not that it wasn't drinkable. It just tastes like you were drinking mud. No matter how many times you ran through a filtration system, it was mud flavored. And, it's a drinkable water, so you just got to weigh the pros and the cons. Are you willing to drink mud?
And us being a very diverse population from and mixed ancestry, it'd be somewhat debatable that one ethnic group is more or less susceptible to water contamination. Like a lot of this stuff, you go to a foreign country or whatever, that they've been drinking the water that's polluted, but you coming in with a different type of fauna or flora in your intestinal tract that can't handle it, you're going to be sicker than a dog, where they've gone through that phase of being able to tolerate it and have digestive system is accustomed to it. But overseas, a lot of the elderly that don't have vitality and youthfulness, that mortality rate is much, much higher in the upper years and the lower years than what we have here in the nation.
I have another question. If they find something in the water, over here one time they found something in the well. I remember the tap water smelled like awful bleach. It's almost like we were bleached. So I was like, smells like bleach. And then 2 months later, you know, the smell went away, and then we finally get a letter in the mail. Hey, we had something in the water, and yada yada yada. So, I hate to ask again. I think you answered this question earlier in the show, but what type of, if bleach is over a certain part per million, where does it become destructive to the human body?
They try and keep it down below 6 parts per million. What you'll find a lot of times in your distribution systems is for lack of a better term, they call it bile slime. There actually be a gelatinous layer or lining inside the pipes. And when you start smelling the chlorine, a person would think that they're putting too much in the pipe or in the water. They're actually not adding enough chlorine to kill that bile slime off. So the byproduct is we get that taste and odor of the bleach in the water. And a lot of it can be a lot of your reservoirs and lakes that somewhat shallow, they will turn over during the temperature changes from the fall to winter and from winter to spring. The densities of the water will change levels and thus affect what's coming into the plant to be treated, and you get taste and odor issues and the chlorine issue. I know of two towns that pull off the same lake. One runs its water through an activated carbon filter. You don't have that chlorine taste or that muddy water taste because it's the activated carbon is absorbing all the byproducts. The next town over that doesn't have that type of activated carbon filter, you wouldn't want to drink that water, but it's not going to kill you, but it sure is hard to kind of choke it down. So it kind of depends upon where your how often your distribution lines are cleaned out, what the chlorine demand is in it, and a lot of the raw water quality, or what it takes to make it potable and safe to drink. I hope that answered your question. It's kind of a drawn-out explanation.
Now, everybody needs to realize
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Like chlorine that you buy in a jug, it's 6% is what that is. Either 6 to 7 and max is normally all that chlorine is. And there's a reason for that. It's because of the burns that you get sustained through higher contents of chlorine. Now, Kendall's worked at a facility where we dealt with a lot stronger chlorine bases. And when you get up into the 50% stuff, chlorine will attack stainless steel and it'll actually start making the stainless blister. It don't.
Oh yeah, I've worked in a chemical plant where we messed around with taurine, toluene, xylene, and all these other wonderful chemicals. I was actually doused in xylene one time and had to be thrown into a cold shower.
Chlorine's one of them things that, it's got its pros and cons, but the pro is just a certain amount of chlorine in water will make it to where it is a potable water, where it takes out some of the pathogens and stuff that you don't want in there.
Yeah, one common misconception people have is about sterile water versus disinfected water. Sterile water has absolutely no activity. It's perfectly clean, where disinfected water, it has enough chlorine residual. It's been disinfected enough where it's safe to drink. There's a big difference between drinking sterile water, which is not palatable, versus disinfected water. And in some cases, you will have that chlorine taste left over.
A question I had for Kendall was on reverse osmosis versus deionized water. Which would be the best to drink if you had the choice?
I would lean towards the membrane filtration. It's the pores that the water is forced through under extreme pressures, strains anything out. They can adjust the size of the filters in microns. They try and keep it down to 1 micron or less, which takes all the minerals and all the taste out of the water, but they have to go back and readjust the pH and alkalinity of the hardness to make it palatable again. membrane filtration. Membrane filtration is becoming more and more common on the coastal areas. We're bringing salt water in and just, per se, filtering the salt ions out of it.
Now, I saw a documentary not long ago, maybe a few months ago, where there's a town in Japan where the people get minerals through their water because they pull it out the side of the mountain, and the water is so filled with gold that in the water reclamation side of their water plants, they take all the biosludge, you know what that is, biosludge, and they throw it through a furnace, and then out of what comes out of the furnace, they kiln it, and they're able to recover at least an ounce of gold every week. So that's actually quite odd.
Yeah, that'd be a place to balance the book.
There be gold in that pond.
You got to give my crew credit.
Yeah, it's a worldwide. There's a lot of anomalies that occur, and that's one that I wasn't aware of, but I can see it happening.
Well, it's just this one small town. It's not a town. It's a one small city in Japan, in the mountainside, where they have such a high concentration of like gold and silver in the water, and they try to filter it out the best they can through filtration and osmosis. But there's still some getting through somehow, and they've found that if they take the biosludge on the other end and they cook it down, they're recovering gold and silver.
I guess when they die, they're not totally worthless then.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I read an article about reverse osmosis that at a high concentration, in other words, you're going through the system at least twice, and at that point in time, drinking that water will absorb metals out of your system that you actually need in your system. It can be dangerous to your health as well. So there's a point in time where
there's other effects from water. If I try to chug 5 gallons of water in an hour, I'll get water toxicity, and that's not a good thing. I mean, anything in a high amount is bad, even water, which is so good for you and necessary for life. If I chug 5 gallons in less than an hour, I'm going to pass out on the floor, or at least I'm going to get dizzy from water intoxication. Now, kids, boys and girls, don't try that at home. It will kill you.
Wake up dead. Yeah, one thing in years past was that beer or wine was the preferred liquid. That was because they didn't have any way to disinfect it. The alcohol in the water was the disinfectant.
Yep.
That's how you used to moisturize.
Yep. Matter of fact, during the Napoleonic Wars, Napoleon, that's why it used to be up until modern times, up until very recent, that they would issue rum or brandy or some sort of alcohol to the soldiers every day. You'd get a stipend of alcohol, and that was just to put into the water. Matter of fact, the British Navy still carries on the tradition that each sailor is issued a ration of a quib, what is known as a quib a week of rum. And a quib roughly translates to like less than what is an eighth or a pint or something. And the whole tradition, the idea is that if you get into bad water, you make what is known as a grog, which is a diluted alcohol in water, and it sterilizes the water, or cleans the water.
Okay, Nanya Beeswax had a question. What's the best way to filter? Really? What's the best way to filter urine for consumption, and how many times can the body handle filter urine? We're talking water.
I can tell you this. You can process your own urine at least 3 times. After that, it becomes toxic. But please, if you wish to experience Darwinism at its best, don't listen to me.
But the best method is to catch it in a plastic bowl and use the water that's evaporated off of it, caught onto another plastic that drains down into something else, that you can capture that water, and it's actually
solar distillation. That's the best method to recycle urine. Okay, now that we've covered something that this man's not an expert in,
only survivalists to be able to survive.
Well, boy, I can tell you some things that are a little scary.
And desperation calls for desperate measures.
Yep. This is true. I mean, I feel sorry for all those people out there that don't know that don't know where to when it really goes bad and they have to hunt and forage to live, because they're not going to be able to find gluten-free tacos out there in the wild.
Well, eating grass and chewing acorns is not going to be a bad alternative to worrying about.
Can't do it again.
I'll tell you what, then obesity won't be such a problem. It'll actually be the blessing.
Oh yeah, we'll get back to lean and mean.
But yeah, I had a kid in my high school. He was a foreign exchange student, and when he got here, one of the things he was amazed of is just how much water Americans waste. And he would tell me, like, because he was from Bosnia, because it was during the Bosnian conflict, and he was like, over there, you're lucky if you get a bath like twice a week or maybe once a week. And you people over here are showering, brushing your teeth, using water for everything. You water your lawns, you water your dog, everything gets water. There, you take a bath and it goes by age. The baby gets washed, and then from the baby goes the youngest, and then from the youngest to the oldest, and then that water is then used to wash the dishes or to wash the clothes. Here, you're just like, oh, new pot of water. You fill up your bathtub, you fill up your sink, you fill up this, you fill up that, you water your lawn. And it's just, he was amazed by the amount of water we just wasted. And I just looked at him because I didn't understand what he was talking about then. But now that I'm older, it's like, wow, he was right. We really do we waste so much water. And then he's like, the water that we would, after we got done bathing and all that, we put it in our garden, because that little bit of soap, that's nitrogen and fats, that's good for the plants. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, not only are we the highest energy consumption per capita in the world, we're also the highest usage of water in the world. And the availability of it, and how we're blessed with these resources, other countries just can't imagine it. Well, there's some countries you go to, get on a bus, and they smell a perfume will just about gag you, because they're trying to cover up the body odor and the stench of not bathing. Bathe in perfume or
body powders.
For all you people that traveled over to Germany and places like that, they don't give you ice in your Coke. It's a Coke. They conserve their water.
Actually, if you go to the McDonald's in Germany, you ask for a beer. And that's B-E-I-R, not B-E-E-R, beer.
Yeah, at one point it was brought up about if we went off-grid, we would adapt and conserve our water resources much more stringently. We're used to availability and no lack of turn the tap on. And
we are definitely becoming too accustomed to having the ease and accessibility to things. And if it ever does go bad, if the world stops turning, or whatever it is the situation, and we can't turn that tap and get water, there will be troubles, because not a lot of people are smart enough, because they haven't put in the due diligence just to read what used to be considered common sense. Like here, I know that if I dig down 10 feet, which, it's going to take me an hour to get that far, if not less, because I'm not that lazy. If I got a task, I can do it. I can dig a 3x3 quick. But I know that if I got to dig 10 feet to get water, I'll do it, and I'll do it within an hour. A lot of people will just go crazy because they don't know where to look. They wouldn't know what trees to look for over a spring. Like a lot of people used to know, you look for a willow tree, a weeping willow tree. Now it's like people don't even know. You look for certain things, so you look for the way watershed comes, or the watershed is water comes off the hills, or the area, the surface of the. If you want to look for water, dig at the bottom of the hill, and if you can't find water, dig a trench at the bottom of a hill, and what will happen is water will eventually shed through ground precipitation, or something like that. I can't really pronounce it.
No, you got it.
Will gather at that point, that place of that lowest point, at the point of least resistance. It takes up a little time and effort and know-how, but a lot of people just don't know how to do it. And it's sad. It really is sad.
One thing a lot of people
I understand how to.
Like the energy would take to dig down 10 feet could be X amount of calories of energy burned. Water plants that purify the water have to use electricity and the pumping and wear and tear on a plant, so it's a cost per unit. People who use their own water and catch rainwater or gray water, yes, they are saving money, and it's a cost per unit type thing.
Hidden says we are losing our skills when it comes to resources. We need to teach our grandchildren about water. Okay.
Yeah, that's one thing that's being reintroduced into the public schools is water conservation facts. There's not an infinite supply that we have at our disposal. How to recycle our food waste. How to actually have a backyard garden. Skills that our grandparents or even further back were very adept at, that we have lost the skills and the knowledge of it. We're just used to drive through McDonald's for a 99-cent hard pack in a sack.
Oh, you don't want to hear about McDonald's.
In Oregon, abundance of water for about 9 months straight. Yeah, I grew up in Northern California. We got one rain a year. It was like from October to April, and so they're in the Northern California, the Oregon region. They pump a lot of that water over the Sierras and into huge aqueducts that would go to Southern California to support their population and then industry, transporting one resource from one area to another for economic gain.
Okay, I have a question for those, and we're on the water subject, but what plant in the desert could you use to drink from that's going to save your life if you have no water?
One of them is cactuses. They absorb water and stay maintain a photosynthesis for extended periods of time. Some parts of the country they've talked about making collecting rainwater is illegal. I don't know whether your idea on that is if they're short-circuiting the recharge of the aquifers, or exactly why they're...
No, Rage, no, I can't.
Why they're...
He's got to go. Okay. Rage is taking a moment. Go ahead, finish. Okay, so...
Has anyone in the chat room seen Cabin Fever? It's a legitimate question. Please continue.
Is what now? What did you say, Toast?
I said, has anyone in the chat room seen the movie Cabin Fever?
Okay, that's a personal question.
No, sir. The theme to it is, I'm not familiar with it.
What was it about?
Are we talking the comedy Cabin Fever?
Are we talking the comedy Cabin Fever or the horror?
The horror movie. Because I asked that because there's a point to that movie. There was a dead body floating around, and then all of a sudden everybody became sick with this illness that they had no idea what it was. Is that possible in today's modern age?
Very possible. Yeah, I've heard some horrific stories like that. One that actually comes home to the family tree that an old hand-dug well back in the 30s that pumped out for years. All of a sudden it became this rank to drink, but not through lack of knowledge and etc. They went ahead and drank it. Finally got to the point that they went down to the well and started dipping it out. And what had happened is the upper seal where they had the mealstone lining the well had cracked and opened up, and you had these rabbits doing the Nestea plunge. And they were actually trying to find a burrow, and they found this hole in the ground, dug down through it, and fell off in the well water, and were decomposing it, and the family was drinking the water that had rotted rabbits in it.
Now, explain also why people need tetanus shots if they're going to be working anywhere near there's floods. Why would they need a tetanus shot because of that water?
There's no telling what that water is run over. The runoff from animals, excrement, contamination from flooded septic tanks, contamination from a variety of sources. If you get tetanus, you're about 75 to 80% dead. It's a terrible thing we had that was common in years past, but to now having a tetanus shot is so common with boosters every 5 to 10 years. You don't hear much about it, where years ago it was pretty much a death sentence.
see if our guest will elaborate some more on the bottom one.
Fukushima. I really can't add a lot to that I'm absolutely familiar with. I do know that the jet stream picked up a lot of the airborne particulate matter that was radioactive, and it's been detectable here on the west coast and across the upper Midwest. That where they've noticed the rise in background radiation levels from clear around the world, all the way to Michigan. So yeah, Fukushima is just a peak of what could happen if they ever multiple catastrophes.
There's doctors that put out reports that because of the high levels of radiation that happened during that little time frame.
Yeah, one thing that happened in the floods in New Orleans and Hurricane Katrina, like was mentioned earlier, that we're about 80% water, and you start dehydrating, you'll do anything for a drink of water. That's one of the big issues, that the heat and humidity down there, people were perspiring and losing so much salt and vital minerals. There was no water to replace them with. It was a life and death issue. If they drank the water, it was contaminated with sewage water, runoff from backyards, runoff from industrial sites. It's a major health concern, any catastrophe, and by having a resource of water that's available in everyday life, or knowing that it's a season for hurricanes or tornadoes, etc., being prepared is much better than trying to play catch up.
Now, if there ever was a problem with radiation fallout or whatever, how long does it take where
the way I understand it is a lot of the byproducts from our power generation nuclear power plants have half-lives of 10,000 years plus. One comment, Chernobyl is still off limits. Yeah, they'll never open that thing up again.
Yeah, there was doctors actually out there on the web that had recommended in the northern states that they give their kids iodine, liquid iodine, because of the problem out of Japan. Because nobody eats fish no more where they got natural iodine.
Yeah, they've got it has to do with your pituitary glands, or it's your. Yeah, where the iodine
is the pituitary gland and the regulation of your body's temperature.
Yes, sir.
I want to say something. In the Chernobyl region, they are having a lot of problems with birth defects. A lot. And in 20 years, soon, 20 years may be a long time, but it's soon. We'll soon have the same health problems in 20 years, as I said, as Chernobyl, and it won't be good. It's not going to be pretty.
No, that's a risk assessment that we as a society are willing to tolerate and gamble on. Not going to happen in my backyard. Well, that's fantasy. But it's one of the things that for cheap electricity and manufacturing and public health and welfare, etc., that we're willing to roll the dice and take a chance on it. They have multiple backup systems until the earthquakes come along and back up the whole show. Yeah, I'd say our future has multiple areas that.
Okay, we have a question here by Nanya. What happened to the lakes? What happens to the lakes and the rivers surrounding volcano eruptions?
They mentioned earlier about being from Oregon area on the west coast, that the mountain that blew up back in the
Mount St. Helens.
Mount St. Helens back in the 80s. All the rivers were just full of the water and thunderstorm rain that the lakes just turned to turn to sludge. A lot of times these, with an earthquake or a volcano eruption, it's going to change the topography of the surface, and where you may have water draining off of the multiple areas now into this one lake. Now it may be higher or lower, or it may even crack. There's been examples of the lakes have actually disappeared, and the water's drained off into the bottom, into other aquifers. That's a good question.
Oh, that's for me. Okay. Anyone who got any more questions?
Where do babies come from?
Boys and girls.
These days, yes, you got it on the head.
Yeah,
I'd say really.
That's a in the present and years past, a lot of industrial waste has been discharged into lakes, into underground aquifers, and there are chemicals out there that do cause terrible babies are malformed, stillborn, preemies. Can't think of it right offhand, but that's not a pretty picture to see somebody who's has drinking contaminated water from industrial waste, etc., that cause the baby to be malformed or not compatible with life. It's a present day situation. I didn't mean to give you a smart ass answer about boys and girls, but that's one thing that I've run across is that like with babies aren't compatible with life, they're mutated. Good question.
It was a good question. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, does anyone else have any questions?
Call lines are open.
I got one, and I don't need to call in. I'm already here. Flint, Michigan, with the issue that's going on there, how long is it going to take them to clear that up?
Burning clothes, steal my questions.
That's a good question, and I couldn't put a. I guess one way to answer it depends upon the public outrage and public sentiment, what they're willing to pay to get the pipes replaced and all the lead taken out of the replacing the lines. It can be done however soon, by how much money you want to throw at it.
Okay. Now, what pipelines running to a home is the best ones to have? Because when some of these real old historical homes, they have the old pipes.
Cast iron pipes.
Yes, there's still pipes like Atlanta, Georgia that were installed back in the Civil War days. Presently, PVC pipe is the type of choice, but it has to do a lot with the how deep the line is. Under so many foot-pounds of pressure that PVC pipe X gauge would be crushed at 80 to X amount of feet deep. They'd be using concrete pipe or cast iron pipe or other pipe of plastic.
Okay, Nanya wants to know, did the guest military service include environmental study?
Yeah, I got to go on the Far East Fun tour. And it was an environmental study. You don't drink the water, don't chew the ice, and don't eat the lettuce.
In Mexico either. Okay, I found out, Tom just let me know, that Pennsylvania has the what?
Highest amount of fracking issues right now in water systems.
Pennsylvania. So what would that mean?
That the fracking is a problem there.
Okay.
That the water burns.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, they're acidifying the water to dissolve any calcified strata to let the gas and the oil flow easier. Back to the point of the military experience on environmental studies, that's one of the biggest things that we were faced in Afghanistan and Iraq, is having potable water and enough water to stay hydrated with. There's a whole
This could ask a question.
yes.
How does the guest feel about the upcoming renewal of the use permit of Roundup by the FDA?
The FDA.
I'm tired of all of them.
An old adage is if a little bit's good, a whole lot is better. And that's one thing that people will tend to overdose with Roundup. And actually, a smaller application would do the job. Renewing the permit, it's a catch-22. We have a certain amount of population to feed out here with X amount of acres available. Trying to get the most production per acre to keep the farmer or the industrial business comes into a financial equation versus public health. Like one person mentioned, passing the buck.
Isn't Roundup just basically watered down Agent Orange?
I want to give a quick shout out to all of my Steam friends who just joined us in the viewing stream. Welcome.
Yes, welcome. We appreciate you coming here. Okay, so go on, finish.
One question was, has the contacted the FDA regarding this upcoming review? No, I'm not up to speed on that. I really can't give you an educated opinion on it.
Okay, now I have another question. Because I'm an idiot. Me and Rage have switched roles tonight. He's the one interview. I'm the one asking goofy questions and making funny sounds. Is anyone allergic to water ever in their life? Stereo. Come on.
We can Google it.
Yeah, I prefer wine and liquor myself.
Yeah, I try doing test my flushing. No, that's not a thing I'm familiar with. I'm being allergic to water. I know some folks that you can tell they don't want to bathe, but the allergic folks, they prefer the goat-itis. Not worried about the lasting effects of groundwater. What's the need for GMO use for resistance to it? That's a whole area that we're being kind of led down blindly. Is that for more yield per acre, artificially manipulating the plants' growth patterns. Europe GMO is just not tolerated here in the States. It's the public is somewhat apathetic on making our knowing the risks that long term that these weeds and et cetera become immune to it. Then you have super weeds on nothing will kill. GMO is kind of out of my area of expertise.
Okay. Any more questions? Rage, you're supposed to be running this interview, dude.
Oh, I'm trying to read up and make sure I'm on topic here. I was gonna ask a silly question about how much seawater can a person drink before they go crazy, but
oh, that is a good question, but hard one. I don't know. We can always Google it later, unless you want to answer it.
Go ahead.
I knew the number once upon a time. I can't recall it right offhand, but X amount of gallons, it upsets your whole biochemistry and your
madness.
I knew the number at one time, but I can't recall it right offhand, and I'm somewhat retired, so some things are.
You can go to online. And you can actually report water contaminations and stuff like that.
Okay, EPA does have a site. Brenda, you can look up this. That you can go online and report any contamination of water.
www.epa.gov.
There you go, Brenda.
Now, with all this flooding that has happened as of recently, do you think that's going to have any effect on restoring our aquifers or our groundwater or our water tables at all? Or do you think that's actually a byproduct of our aquifers drying up?
I'm sorry, the first part of your question was?
with all this recent flooding we've been having in the country, we've had flooding in parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and parts of, I think, even up in towards y'all's area near Missouri area. Do you think that any of that was going to help to refill our aquifers, or is that actually a byproduct of the aquifers drying out and dying?
It's a transitional stage from a rampant flood back to a regular flow. Would depend a lot upon the topography and the type of soil that's infiltrating to it. It would happen so quick it would have a minimal amount of generally speaking, a minimal amount of effect on recharging aquifers. There is some talk about, taking the water from the wastewater plants and purifying it, and they actually do it. Pump it back down in the ground to recharge the aquifers for future use.
Okay, here's a question Biscuit has right here if you want to read it. I guess already touched on.
Desalinization and the particulates of it. They're trying to pull the salt ions out of the water, and it's not going to be toxic to us. Very common on the eastern seaboard, west seaboard, over in Europe, Mid-East. Actually, here in border of Kansas and Missouri, we have salty water that has a membrane filtration on it that takes the salt particles out of it, and it's
okay, Nanya, are you talking blood or water, dude? The guest familiar with blood types, or how one type can react with another. Mm-hmm. We're talking water, not blood.
He's our guest here was a professor of environmental sciences, and his department of expertise was water. Don't know how better to explain that to you, other than the fact that he was an environmental scientist that involved himself with water, not blood, not a lot of the craziness, but it is what it is. C'est la vie.
Okay. Hidden said, Clovis, can you remember to thank the professor from the chat room that we hope he enjoyed the show? Are you going somewhere, Hidden?
He's gonna hide.
Thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to share what knowledge I have about it. And hope I've enlightened you on any questions or concerns you may have.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
And we would like to have you back in the future. So, are we going to wrap this up? It's already 9:13, Toast.
Yeah, Toast.
I guess.
He's got an hour and a half.
We can do an open roundtable segment if everybody wants to call in and talk about anything.
Come on, Toast, man. Just let me close. Let's close this up for right now, man.
All right. Well, I guess I'm closing it up. Please subscribe and share.
Yes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you like our video and like more of them, go ahead, hit that like button and that share button. We'd like to thank our guest tonight.
There you go. Thank you, Ray.
We'd like to thank our guest tonight, Professor of Environmental Sciences, Kendall Stevens, for sharing with us your information and your wisdom, sir. Also, we'd like to thank those who are watching and those who are chatting. And those who are in the chat room, I'm going to give a quick little shout out to. So go ahead and hit something on the screen so you'll pop up in my active chat button here. And I'll give you a quick shout out. Other than that, I'd like to go over any kind of headlines that have happened or occurred while we were doing the show. As everyone knows, let's see, since the show has started. Okay. Two firefighters were shot as of an hour ago. 2 firefighters were shot in Prince George County, Maryland. An update, 458 flights now canceled at Denver International Airport due to the snowstorm that's coming through. 3 people, including 2 firefighters, were actually shot in George County, Maryland. Small volcanic eruption. A volcano has erupted in Japan. That could be part of the earthquakes there. Small volcanic eruption occurred at Mount Aso in southern Japan around 8:30 local time. Smoke has reportedly risen about 300 feet high. As of an hour ago, another earthquake of 5.4 earthquake struck near Komoto, Japan. There was a tornado spotted over Eva, Oklahoma. Suspects in custody after the shooting. Another earthquake.
How do you roll right like that? I mean, how do you? I mean, you're freaking me out. I'm thinking there was a tornado, and then the tornado got in custody.
No. There was a tornado spotted in Eva, Oklahoma. There's no reports of a touchdown. It was just spotted.
Okay, well,
the suspects in the shooting in MD there, they've been taken into custody. As of 24 minutes ago, there was an earthquake of 5.0, the strike near southern Crete in Greece. That's another earthquake, guys. How many does that make today?
A big one? How big?
Yeah, it's 5.0, so that's...
Oh, yeah, kind of big. Yeah.
Photos of dozens of firefighters and emergency aid workers have gathered outside of the hospital where fallen firefighters have been taken to. In Indonesia, 4 were kidnapped. Another shot in a hijacking of a tugboat in a barge in waters near the border with Malaysia and the Philippines.
Okay, Rage.
Yes.
I need to say something. Kendall is getting ready to leave, but he did say to tell the viewers he is on Facebook, Kendall Stevens. And if you have any more questions, if you have any questions about water or anything like that, not blood, dude, he's into water, okay? Water or anything like that, he'd be more than glad to talk to you through Facebook.
What about smoke on the water? Dun,
hey,
dun, huh?
Can we mute
I'd
him?
like to have him back on the show whenever he wants.
Hold on, Kendall. We would like to have you back on the show in the future, please. He said yes, and thank you.
All right, and I've given you enough time to post on the board, so I can give you a little shout out here. Okay, and Alexis, we'd like to thank you for your hard work and efforts. Biscuits, Hidden from All, I Can See You, Ian Beiser, Miss Brenda, Nunya Beeswax, and Warrior Princess. Hey, Warriors, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a minute, huh?
Hey, Warrior.
As well as the others that are actually watching that aren't chatting. Hi, we know you're watching us. Anyways, y'all have a good night. God bless and stay safe. Later.
Hey, are we still live?
Yes, we are. Show ends in 30 seconds.
Can I do something? It's how long?
25 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to do this as a shout out to our lurkers. And if it's possible, I want them to hear it. So let's see, where am I at? I got it. Just give me a minute. I'm freaking out here. Don't make me freak. Hey, Dolly. Hey, Clovis.
Countdown suspended for the time being.
Are we off air?
No, we're not off air. Please continue.
Okay, I want to dedicate this to. Hold on, it's not working. Okay, here it comes. Okay, we got it going now. All right, this is for the lurkers. I love you. Okay. And
actually picked up 2 more. Hi, lurkers.
No, copyrighted music.
Just stopped. I only gave a point. If you want to go see it, it's on YouTube. But anyway, Warrior Princess, I want to say hey to you. And Toasted, you are the best streamer, dude. I have to say, I am lucky to work with you. Rage, kudos. Give him a hand. He did a good interview. We had good questions. So Hidden got up in the blood scene. But we had I think this was a good night, after all. I mean.
And just so you know, Hidden, blood is thicker than water.
Yes, yeah. Yes, it was. Now, Saturday night, we're going to have Ed. His name's Edward. He's very loud. He's very passionate about his, that's tomorrow night. He's very loud, he's very passionate, but he does know the law, okay? He corrected me on law, which is the common law and something else law. I'm going to learn tomorrow myself, so I'm not going to want to play.
Statutory law?
No, it didn't say statutory. He said something else. He's really good at what he knows, evidently. I put him through the 20 questionnaire thing, told him what we expected on the show, and he will be here tomorrow night. We're going to try to have everybody here. Oh, White Eagle is coming back next Tuesday. He's going to be on the show Tuesday night. Sunday, we're going to have, toast is quick. Sunday, we're going to have round table with the mods, where we just kick off, have fun, enjoy, relax, and talk about the issues and the news. Really, I'd like to see how smart we all are. And want you guys to keep Jerry Cooper of the White House Boys in your prayer. Keep the White House Boys in your prayers. Tomorrow they will be attending a very, very heartbreaking funeral, which funerals are heartbreaking, but he's going to need us in your prayer. He sounds very low when I talked to him today. So, and I told him that we all still praying for him. And let's do that, please. Keep him in our prayers.
Clovis, you know what's odd? We've gone a whole show without me doing one voice. You know how odd that is?
Well, that's
it's very odd, sir.
There's fucking London people up in the house now. Very odd, sir.
Very odd. Indubitably.
But, I mean, we learned some things tonight. I mean, we actually did. Now, my well is about 400 foot deep. The well we had over in another home in a county over, it was 720. So, but see, don't do the bleach thing down the well if you smell it smells like rotten eggs, because I'm a city girl at the time. I didn't know nothing about a well. My husband's pouring bleach. Is it gone yet? Is it gone yet? And he keeps pouring. Ooh. We had crystal water, but it smelled of chlorine. And we used his son to test the drink of the water.
Well, it's been a great show. Have a great one, everybody. Closing thoughts?
Yes, my closing thoughts are private. Anyways, y'all have a good night and God bless, and thank you for tuning in. This show is made possible by viewers like you. We appreciate all the people who watch us and all those in chat, even those who don't chat, people who are watching now.
I have to laugh because you guys see how big this dude is, and that voice by viewers like you. You'd understand why I'm laughing.
What's that supposed to mean?
Oh my God, he can go deeper. Higher.
Good night, everyone.
Are we done?
5, 4, 3, 2.
Goodbye.